Hello and welcome to a little OpenNTF video demonstration on how to install Domino and extras on Docker. So first we assume that we already have the install packages, the files for the Domino server, for the Nomad web server and HCL Leap prepared on our machine. I created an install folder and transferred the files into that folder. We need those packages to run the build script for the container. So first we have to install Docker if not already present on this machine. You should check if you are root or if you are not root. If you are not root, in that case, then you have to install Docker using sudo. I'm using it anyway here, though I am root, and a few seconds or minutes later, after everything was downloaded using this so-called convenience installation script from the Docker resources, Docker is installed for your system. By the way, in that case, for demonstration purposes only, I am using an Ubuntu server. So the next step is to download, in that case cloning the repository from the Domino Container project, which contains all the necessary informations and scripts and configuration elements to build your Docker container image. So I'm also using the development branch usually for this repo. You could also use the main branch, the master branch, but yeah, I'm using develop. The build script needs the installation packages in the software folder inside the Domino Container repository. So I'm now moving all the installation package to that folder. Now we are checking the file access rights, and as you can see, one of those three files does not have proper access rights because we are not able to read it, or the script is not able to read it. So we add the read access to that file and check that again. Now it is readable for the script. The script is using a configuration element, which is the software txt file, and the software txt file contains all the various versions and checksums and file names for installation packages. But there's a difference currently when you are using Nomad web server for Domino. The file is named different here, and also the checksum is different from the file that I'm using here. So I'm now trying to get the correct checksum for this file. This is done by the command SHA256 zoom, very nice name. So to compute that checksum, and now we have to modify that software file. But before we do that, I strongly recommend to create a backup of that file. So if we mess up, then we can go back anytime. So what I'm doing here is executing a search, a find and replace command to replace the old file name with a new file name that we actually have. And the same I'm doing with searching and replacing the old checksum hash and replacing it with a new one. Do not forget to define the target file, otherwise it won't work. But the second attempt was successful. So now we can check if the changes were successful, and obviously they are. So there's one last step before we can build the image. You have to execute this little script, which is called update software file, in the same directory as the software txt file is in. Then we go one directory up where the build script is in, and we can execute the build script. With a parameter with the option Domino, which installs the Domino server only, and the second one that we use also in the first step is to add Nomad to it, with using the option plus Nomad. Another optional parameter is the -from, where you can choose the base operating system. If you do not define that option, the from option, then CentOS 8 stream will be used. In that case, I'm using VMware Photon OS, which is a very lightweight Linux operating system, which also works fine. Obviously, Domino is not certified and tested for that, but it works. And the benefit of using this lightweight operating system is that it is much faster to download and to install. And actually, I'm cheating here a bit because I speeded up that process a bit because the building process might take 5 to 6 minutes or 4 to 6 minutes. And of course, I don't want to bore you with just staring at a console that doesn't do anything for a while. So this is much faster than it was in real time, obviously, but we are almost done. So installing the base operating system is done now, and what you can see here is that the software packages are downloaded based on that definition in that software txt file. They are found successfully, and the red text shows you the process of downloading it to a temporary location where then the installation of Domino, now that we see here, takes place. And I think you know that that could also take a bit to finish installing a Domino server the silent way. And finally, there's also Nomad added to it, which is basically copying over some files from the zip file to the Domino program directory. So that's also almost complete now. Now there are some housekeeping, cleaning up, removing stuff that is not needed anymore, and we are done. The image is built within 4 minutes and 29 seconds. So the next step is to check if the image is there, and there we go. So we have an HCL Domino with the tag latest and the tag 1202, which is the same. So we have one image with 2 different tags. Usually the build script uses the latest tagged image. So you just saw how to add a leap. So it's the same command like before. We call the build script, but instead of typing Domino as the option, we just type leap. And this will add leap to the image that is tagged with latest. So HCL Domino latest. And it generates a new image, of course. So the old one without leap is not touched. So it just created a new one with leap included. So what we are doing now, of course, is configuring our new Domino server. In that example, I'm configuring an additional server, and I prepared the server ID already, and I also prepared the one-touch configuration. As I'm a developer, I'm preferring the JSON format here instead of using environment text files, which is also fine, but yeah, it looks a bit nicer, at least for my eyes, to use a JSON file. And as you can see, there are several options I'm using. Please refer to the documentation which one-touch options are available. Then we of course need a data folder for our new Domino server, and we are creating a so-called Docker volume with a name that you can choose, but you have to remember that later, because when we start the container, in the end, we need this volume name, which we are doing now. So we are starting the Docker container, and right now with several options. So we want it detached, which is the -d option, so we can type in our command line after execution. We are mounting the volume, which is a nodes data. We are mounting 2 volumes, which only point to the 2 files we have in our install folder, the server ID and the JSON config file, and defining some ports and stuff like that, and also the image, of course. And what we've done now is we started a container, which is going to be our final server, to be honest, but currently it's in the one-touch configuration mode. But we can bash into that container and watch the magic happen, which is great. If everything works fine and your JSON config file is without errors, then you can see the configuration takes place. It is much slower than what you see right here. So we are already seeing familiar Domino server console messages here. The configuration, in that case of my additional server, depends on the power of the machine, of course, the network connectivity to the first server you have to define where to replicate the Domino directory from, and so on and so on. So it takes a bit. I think I remember this took about 5 minutes in that case, and I speeded it up, of course, for this little demo. But as you can see, normal messages, so we can close and leave the console, and we can leave the container here, and and now we are basically done. We are checking now how the container looks after it was configured, and as you can see, there are a lot of ports that are added and exposed from that container, more than we actually defined in our Docker run command. So this is interesting. But if you stop this configuration container, then it will only work or expose the ports you defined before. We will see that in a bit. So we are stopping the container, and as you can see, it takes a while because what happens is inside the container, the Domino server was told to quit, which takes a few seconds. We all know that. And after that, the operating system is also shut down. So this is the command I'm recommending you to run. This also creates a new Docker container with a little tool called Portainer. It is a nice application. It is a web front end to manage your Docker environment. So instead of using the terminal and using all the Docker commands, you can then easily type in your web browser of choice and use Portainer as your management tool for Docker, which is very cool. And if you do that for the first time, then you have to set an admin password. So the user is always admin, but you have to define a password for it. But this is only for the first time you access it. Once you have done that, you will be presented with the UI of Portainer. So you have to choose the environment, and then you can switch to the containers. And as you can see, besides the Portainer container, of course, there's our Domino container and 2 containers left that I don't know where they are from. Of course, I know where they are from. They are from the build process. These are temporary containers that were used during the image building. And anyway, I just ignored that for a second and just started the Domino server container again, my own one. And I also connected and bashed into that container from the web UI, which is really cool, and watched the server console messages coming up. So what we do next is to clean up our system, to remove everything that is not needed anymore. This is only for containers that are not used anymore. But before you run that command, you have to make sure that you have all the containers running that you do not want to remove, you do not want to clean up. Because this little command cleans it up and removes all containers that are not running. And everything that is associated with that. Not everything, actually, everything without except images. So the unused images can also be removed. But yeah, I also would be very careful. And also with volumes. Volumes should not be removed, especially not for a Domino server. So it's time to test the Domino server. It started HTTP by default because of my configuration. And there we go. And that's it for the moment. And have fun with Domino and all the other stuff on Docker.